A-T. It's in the name.
Welcome into the Helping Healing Humor with Ben and Travis podcast. On today's episode, we're going to talk about keeping your brain healthy, some do's and some don'ts. And so stick with us. We'll have that conversation after these important messages. Hey friends, we've got something really special to share with you today, a brand new children's book that's all about faith, family, and finding joy in the middle of life's challenges. It's called The Adventures of Ben and Travis and the Joy Rider. This heartwarming story follows a big brother in a wheelchair who uses his creativity, courage, and a whole lot of love to help his little brother and cousin overcome life's obstacles. Together they show us that joy isn't about what you have, it's about how you choose to face the ups and downs of life. This book is full of fun, adventure, and hope. It's perfect for bedtime stories, Sunday school libraries, or as a meaningful gift for the kids in your life. Plus, it's a great way to start conversations with your family about resilience, compassion, and faith. Pre-orders are open now, and when you order early, you'll be one of the first to get your hands on this inspiring story. Just head over to benandtravis.com/books. That's benandtravis.com/books and pre-order your copy today. Give your kids a story that will make them smile, laugh, and believe in the power of joy. I'm Travis Creasy, the pulpit minister at Westgate Church of Christ in Dothan, Alabama, on the southeast corner of the state of Alabama, and Ben Hayes is in the northwest corner of Alabama, so we couldn't get any farther apart, I think, and still be in the same state. But he is the pulpit minister at Highland Park Church of Christ. All-Pro counselor, 3-chord counselor, I didn't even mention that, Mars Hill Bible School, and of course, just the amazing person he is, Ben Hayes.
Well, I'm just thankful you're in the great state of Alabama now.
Yes.
We're farther away from each other than when you were in Tennessee, but
yeah.
I feel like you like being in Alabama again.
It is. It is nice to be in the home state, And as I mentioned, we're going to talk about keeping our brain healthy. And of course, that always starts for us as Christians with Jesus and with God, the Holy Spirit, His church, and being engaged in that. And certainly want to make sure we make that statement that a lot of that can be accomplished in the eternal idea of that is accomplished through a relationship with Jesus. But we got a few do's and don'ts. And I guess we'll start with the good part, the do's, and then we'll get to some of the don'ts.
Well, one of the things I think that's good for everybody is reduce the stress in your life. I've been trying to do that. That's been something that's been a kind of on the forefront of my mind, is trying to get a little less of the things that I've had in the past. I am still with 3-chord. My role there has slowed down a little bit, and I'm working a little bit more with the school. But hopefully, in a part of that is reducing some of the stress. So maybe for you, that may be taking a little bit of extra time for yourself, as we talked about in the last podcast. I don't know what you enjoy. I don't know what hobbies you have, but sometimes it's good to engage in those hobbies. Is that hiking? Is that hunting? Is that fishing? But getting outside is probably a really important part of that.
Feel the sunshine. It's been crisp here. I didn't mention it. We're in Montgomery as we record this for the Faulkner Lectureship, and the times that we weren't in lectures, we were outside feeling the crisp, cool air, feeling the sun. The other day, I just took my shoes off and walked around the front yard and felt the grass and the dirt. There is an idea of grounding. I don't know that how many of you have heard about that, but there's this idea that we were kind of created to kind of run barefooted around, get some time, skin on the ground in some shape, form, or fashion. One of my neighbors in Tennessee was big on that. You would just see him out walking around his house with no shoes on, kind of getting his grounding on.
Yeah, it's not a bad thing. And another part of that's one type of grounding, but another part of grounding, another type of it is just grounding yourself in the moment. And that helps with it, because usually it involves what you hear and what you see and what you feel and what you taste, what you smell. And if you're outside, you get all that. And so you can kind of ground yourself in the moment and also ground yourself in the stuff of the earth. And so that's a good thing. There's a lot of different ways of reducing stress, having good boundaries with people, finding some good, healthy coping skills for the stress that you do have in your life. walking away occasionally, getting away from the thing that's kind of stressing you out and enjoying some other things around you. So there's a lot of different ways to do that. Maybe some workout, which kind of leads us to the second part is for your brain creating some, one of the do's is healthy habits. And I'm not always the best at that, but there's a lot of different ways that, a lot of different habits that are important. Getting some rest, which I haven't had a lot of in the last week or so. So that's going to be a priority for me in the next couple of hours. But getting some rest, sleeping or eating habits are important too. What we eat really does impact how we feel. It also impacts that brain fog that sometimes happens. So I have been a little bit better at that lately, trying to eat a little healthier. And that's made a pretty big difference in the way I feel emotionally, the way I feel physically. Brain kind of felt a little bit more alert. And then, one that I'm trying to get back into again is the exercising habits. And so just doing some of those things can be really helpful. I think we have a book that you can get for free still on our website that you can download, just a little workbook that encourages you to do some physical stuff, some emotional stuff. Yeah. So is that 28 days of focused living?
28 days of focused living. Most grateful Thanksgiving ever. 2 journals you'll get for free. You can print those off or work through them online. Time management, we talked about that a little bit, and that all goes into eating habits, setting stuff out ahead of time, thinking about it, budgeting in your mind time for those things, and making sure you get all that good stuff. Those are all healthy habits. And the next one is have a growth mindset, be able to, I use that word opportunity. I try to change my thought process about things and really look at all things as an opportunity. Even when I fail or it feels like things aren't going the way I want, I'll say a short prayer to the Lord, like, don't let me miss the lesson, right? What are you trying to tell me? What do I need to learn from this situation? Even though it's not a fun one, don't let me miss the lesson. Don't let me waste the failure or the mistake. Let me learn. And so I want to try to gear my brain into opportunity.
Yeah, and that idea of growth mindset versus fixed mindset is such an interesting study. I think it's in Carol Dweck's book, if I'm remembering right. She talks about kids that are encouraged. That there was a study done where they took two different sets of kids into a room, and one group of kids, they just lavished on them praise about what they accomplished after they both finished a task. And they went into this one group and they said, "You guys are so smart. You guys are so wonderful. Look at what you accomplished. Wow, you're just awesome." And another group they went into and they said, "And you guys worked so hard to accomplish this and all that effort you put into it. Great job." And at the end of the day, they said, "Hey, we got another task for you." And the group that had been told, "You're awesome, you're great, you're wonderful," all that, they were actually the group that didn't want to do the next task. And the group that had been told they worked so hard and accomplished it and great job working together were ready to take on another one. And, that's the difference in a fixed and a growth mindset, where you've got this group that's been told over and over again, "You're great." They don't want to really be challenged because they don't want to lose greatness. Whereas I worked hard to accomplish something. And
I feel like I got one of each of those in my house.
Well, and I think we all fall into that sometimes, but I think it's important for us to sort of look.
My kids or me.
Well, that's true. So we accept challenges. That's a fixed or growth mindset accepts challenges. A fixed mindset says, "I don't want to be challenged." A growth mindset, sees an effort as a path to mastering something, and I've got to work hard at it. I'm going to get there. A fixed mindset is more likely to see it pointless. Unless I've got natural talent, then I should just quit. And so you see this with ball teams all the time. We love Alabama. We're Alabama fans. We were all pretty upset when Florida State beat us at the beginning of the season.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people who didn't act like the world was falling apart. There were some of our fans that did that. A lot of people said, "Hey, here's our opportunity to grow, to learn something." and they've made a pretty decent season out of it. They may not do anything
And that's the
after
thing,
this,
like
but
that. As a coach, if I see a team and they're still fighting, they're playing hard, they're trying to get better.
Yep.
You can work with that. But I've also seen those teams that were super talented, but they kind of had some adversity and they didn't have that. And that's when you're like, oh, that's trouble.
Yep.
That's trouble for the
Yep.
leadership. That's trouble for everybody involved. But if you make some mistakes, you might even lose again. But like that team keeps coming back, like we're going to get this figured out. The growth mindset shows up.
And there's a lot of people who, they're threatened by other people's success. That's more of a fixed mindset. But those who are, see somebody else's success as like inspiration. I want to be like that, or even I want to play them. I want to play the best, because if I play the best, then I get to challenge myself.
Alabama
and get
basketball is insane. I think football, it accidentally happened this year that they would play 4 straight ranked teams. But like basketball, they go out and they play.
They plan it that way.
They plan to play the hardest schedule that they can play, and it is brutal during the regular season. But if they get in that tournament, you got to watch out, because they've seen the big bear in the woods, right? Like they've seen how bad it can be, and there's nothing that team's not prepared for. Like we can handle it. We've been through the fire, and it pays off in the end. But man, there at the beginning, it's tough. And I think, as we mentioned earlier, develop an active spiritual life, to be involved, that the Spirit would cultivate in your life, that you're putting the material in that's there to cultivate your spiritual life, and to make it exciting. I had a friend, had somebody in Bible class Wednesday night talk about how, he's curious about the Bible. That means he doesn't need someone going, hey, you should really study your Bible. He's curious about it. Like he's seeking and trying to find and learn things. What you're curious about, you're typically going to go and seek out. And why can't that be your spiritual life?
Yeah. And I think along with that is accountability in the spiritual life, accountability in the things that you struggle with, and time with church, time with the people who are going to help you to develop in the way you need to. So those are the to-dos. The not to-do list, things not to do. One of the things is you don't really want to overdo it as far as like video gaming, technology, and things like that. For the brain, there's kind of been a lot of studies that are showing that that's not a really good thing. There's even in the newest DSM-5, which is the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual that people use for diagnosing different mental health disorders, there is a new section in that about internet gaming disorder. It's sort of one that they say needs more research, but there's certainly some things that go along with that are negative on the brain. And then, of course, just kind of combining with that cell phone usage, we're seeing a lot of issues across the board with that. We know it affects sleep at night because of all the blue light and things that, and focus and attention, and just even with like games and with the cell phone, it has a lot to do with like dopamine release. And so you get this high off of playing the games and you don't want to stop. Just like when we ride a roller coaster or do something that we enjoy, you get that rush of adrenaline, you get that rush of dopamine, and from cell phones and social media usage. And of course, one of the things that comes with that, I know we've talked about before, Ryan Fraser talks about depression, and one of the things that he mentions in that is saturation. So you're saturated with bad news on your phones or your tablets, but you're also on social media looking for that high from likes and encourage, things that people say, and you're constantly looking to see what else has somebody done. And so we get used to those things. We get kind of addicted to those things. And so one of the things that's not real great for our brain is spending too much time online.
Yeah, and there's just something about being in person. It's great to be in the same room with Ben. We've been online and talking and making podcasts, but there is something different about being together and really connecting in that way. I really think about, Ben and I grew up kind of before the digital age, and so we did play outside, or we did play manually with toys and stuff. And I think that we have the dopamine or the great memories that involved being outside and being active and sweating. And I think that that a lot of kids today don't get that same rush,
Yeah.
because there is so much technology and so much gaming. And my kids, they have a little pilot thing, whatever you want to call it, Amazon, whatever. They call it their phone. It's not a phone. And they spend time on it, but we try to limit that as much as possible to when it's just an absolute necessity, even though I don't know that that's ever a great word with technology. But kind of car rides or something like that, and not where it's the only thing they interact with, period,
Ever.
because that kind of leads us to the next thing, obviously avoiding pornography, because there's a fantasy of a relationship there, right? That it goes from I'm on the phone, I'm playing video games, I got this dopamine, to I have a deep desire to have some connectivity to another human being. And of course, it doesn't have to just be pornography, but certainly things along that line tries to fill in that gap that really true relationship really is supposed to be.
Well, and social media sometimes does a good job, and I don't know if that's the right way of putting that, but it lures you in with some of that. So whether you're talking about Twitter or Instagram or even Facebook, sometimes the reels and the things that pop up, of course, the way algorithms work, if you linger at something or you see one thing and it goes, hey, you stayed there long enough, or you liked that or whatever, it starts popping up. And then somebody who might be vulnerable to that, especially teenagers, college age, whatever, you find yourself going down that rabbit hole if you're not careful. And so the same kind of thing happens with pornography. Is your brain releases dopamine, and hey, if you have, and God did this, God designed our brains and our bodies to like sexual activity, and so when you look at something that makes you feel good, dopamine is released, and then norepinephrine, I think is the way you say that. It's kind of the chemical for alertness and focus, and kind of draws you in. It's kind of like adrenaline. And then you've got oxytocin that creates the bonding that happens in a relationship, that's supposed to happen in a relationship when you have that activity with your spouse. And instead, you're bonding to a picture or a video or something that you're not really supposed to be bonding to. It releases endorphins, it releases serotonin, which calms and relaxes you afterwards. And all this stuff was created by God to make a great experience with a person that you were going to be married to for your life. And so when that happens with pornography, it creates an addiction to it, and you want to go back to that. And so we've talked about before that pornography is anonymous, it is affordable, and it's accessible. And that's a problem, because used to, you had to go to the store, and risk being seen and paying money and all those different things. And now it's just accessible on your tablet or your cell phone or your computer, and it's affordable. And
we all need guidance on how to
Yeah.
deal with it. So certainly people who are younger need guidance. They need structure. They need boundaries that are set up.
Yeah,
To,
they need
to protect
accountability
them from being exposed.
Yeah, and
to
so
any of this.
So whether it's accountability, that's one of the most important things, because that limits the anonymousness of it, but also limiting the accessibility of it. So when it comes to our kids, when it comes to ourselves, sometimes we need to limit the access to it. Jesus said, "If your right hand offends you, cut it off." If my computer or my tablet or my phone or my TV or my VCR, do we even know what those are anymore? DVD player, our Netflix account, or whatever it is, if it's a source of temptation for me, if it's a source of something that's leading me down those roads, then I need to limit my accessibility to it. And so that may be somebody that I'm close to. It may be calling up Travis and going, "Hey, I need you to be my accountability partner. I need you to know the codes to everything and to shut off, my tablets or my phone or my access," because that's how we kind of get through those things. And so, whether it's, phones, gaming, which also leads to the pornography part, that is, something we all need is some accountability to help with those things. And kind of while we're talking about addictions, drugs and alcohol are never good things to introduce into our brain. If we want to keep healthy brains, the Bible talks a lot about being sober and vigilant, sober and vigilant. And he's not really talking about, necessarily in those passages being abstinent from those things. He's just talking about being watchful. And it's awful hard to do that if you're constantly giving your brain over to substances.
Well, there are things that latch onto you, and they're going to, they just do, and they don't want to let you go. And certainly the enemy, we believe the enemy is out there, and he's going to use those things to affect you in that way. From another aspect, if you live long enough, you're going to get sick. You're going to have things that show up. Brain health is one of those things. I know when I was diagnosed with leukemia, before they started hitting me with that treatment, they went through all of it. Have you abused drugs or alcohol? And I was able to say no. And they're like, have you had recreational sexual activity? And I was like, well, I've only been married to one person, and that's who I've had that activity with. And I just remember them looking at me and like, first of all, like I had one eyeball, like I was a unicorn, like I was a magical fantasy character or creature. And then the second thing was, that's good, because we're about to hammer you with some medicine. And your body's going to be like, what are you doing? But it's good. It's as healthy as it can be. And certainly we're talking to brain health today, but really just across the board. You don't want to introduce anything, because, if you're college age, you're not going to be college age forever. That's how that works. And you're going to get to a point where you're going to need your body, your brain to be on all cylinders. And of course, we can back that up with scripture, as Ben was doing. But even from just a selfish standpoint of, there's a day coming where my body is going to break down. And so when that happens, or if I need to take medicine or some drastic measures, then I'm healthy enough to handle that kind of thing.
Well, and you've got the idea of, especially if you're a teenager, you're college age, your brain is still in like remodeling phase. It kind of does its growing and building as a toddler. And then when you get to adolescence, which starts 10 or 11 years old, and now most believe goes through like 24 or 25 years old, you're remodeling your brain. You're setting some neural pathways that are going to be there the rest of your life. And, when you're setting those and setting trends for your life based on drugs, alcohol, risky behaviors, sexual activities, pornography use, even gaming and things like that, if that's what you're setting those pathways on, it's hard to change those pathways. It's hard to change those habits. It's hard to get back on a good path. So that's why we have the to-dos. Here's these good paths to kind of get your mind on, and here's the not to-dos, because that's going to affect you for a long time. So maybe if you find yourself in those not to-dos, or maybe you did that during college age, and maybe you survived that, or maybe right now you're still struggling with it, it's not that it can't be changed. It just takes a little bit more effort to change those pathways once you get to a certain age. And so we're just encouraging you, if you're a young person and you haven't given over to those things just yet, then we want to encourage you to make good choices and to do the things that are good for your brain health. And hopefully that's been an encouragement to you today.
Is your church looking for meaningful ways to make a kingdom impact? Healing Hands International has been partnering with churches for more than 30 years to make real change possible. HHI is a faith-driven nonprofit that leads life-changing programs like Walk for Water, where communities come together to raise awareness and funds to drill wells around the world. But that is just the beginning. HHI works to aid, equip, and empower communities around the world teaching families how to grow sustainable gardens, or helping women launch small businesses to support their families. And the best part? All of these programs are done in partnership with local church leaders, empowering gospel opportunities. There are so many ways you and your church can get involved. You can host your own Walk for Water. You can pack gift boxes for kids through the Magi program or host a seed packing event. Learn more and get involved today at hhi.org. That's hhi.org.
The Healing Hands International question of the day, Ben Hayes, is, I think we've done favorite Halloween candy, or maybe Halloween candy, period. But is there a candy out there that, you may have an unpopular opinion, like I love those and no one else does?
Yeah.
Or I hate those, but everybody else loves them.
Everybody loves them.
Yeah.
Well, at least in my household, and it seems to be a trend of people I know, because I've always been the person who got this. I don't get to eat a whole lot of candy anymore, but banana stuff. I had somebody send me a picture today and said, they worked with me several years ago, and anytime Laffy Taffies were on the table, I always got their banana ones because they didn't like the bananas. My wife always gives me the banana ones. She gives me the banana runts. She doesn't like those.
Don't sleep on the nanners, man.
Bananas
I like
are
some
good,
bananas.
but there's a
Banana
lot
flavor.
of people who disagree. They're like, the banana's the worst flavor ever.
I've heard people say that about watermelon. They think watermelon is a wasted flavor.
No, it's not. It's a good one too.
Man, if you ever get any like electrolyte powder that's watermelon, it's
good stuff.
That's money. That's money.
I'm a fan of those. Weirdly, I like, especially if I have peanuts, I like candy corn. I don't think candy corn's wasted. Especially that, you put some candy corn. If you don't know this, a poor man's payday is candy corn with peanuts. And it's just a payday.
Now I know how to eat candy corn, because I ain't eating it any other way.
So it is.
So there's one we disagree with on there. Maybe
what's yours?
Maybe it just reminds me of a certain team that.
It's just the orange that you don't.
It's the orange that I don't like.
So what's your candy?
At my house, I've got two young ones, and for some reason, and I know this used to be your jam, the Peeps. Like, to me, that's just a waste of sugar. If I'm gonna eat some candy, I'm not eating those. And marshmallows in general, unless I have like a bonfire and I can roast marshmallows, I don't really like throwing away. If I'm gonna die by candy in the sugar intake, it's not gonna be by Peeps or marshmallows.
How about Cadbury eggs?
Cadbury snot-filled chocolate eggs.
I like Cadbury eggs. I also did like Peeps. I still like Peeps, but like I'm kind of, and I've always been this way. I'd get people bring me Peeps, all kinds of them, and I would eat them, but I didn't like them in a lot. Like I would like to eat one or two, and then I was kind of done. I didn't really need a whole package of them.
I don't know how people eat more than one.
But you gave me a good idea. S'mores made with Peeps. I'm wondering how that would be.
I'll check that out. Maybe a review, rate and review.
S'mores
I will
Peeps.
say
it's a lot of sugar.
I'm not. I don't abuse drugs, but if the nerd clusters were outlawed, that would help my blood sugar. But I love those. I can't lay off of those. We buy them cheap, probably out of date, to kind of be as a reward for the kids for doing well as they're homeschooled.
Dude, they're
phenomenal. And I know where those are, and I'm gonna have to tell Whitney, like, hide those.
I haven't had one in a long time.
So good.
Since I've kind of cut sugar out.
Perfect.
But I love those.
I'm glad I didn't buy those at Walgreens earlier.
I know.
Because I saw some,
almost
and
did.
I was like,
I knew you were about to.
I'm not going to do that to Ben. I'm not going to do that to Ben, and it's good. Like, I'm not blaming you because it also helps me. But
I love them.
We hope that you're doing well. We've got a great trip down to Montgomery. I don't know when this episode will air. I know we're going to maybe record one while at Faulkner with maybe some guests here and there. But we hope you're doing well and are enjoying your October. Hopefully a good crisp
And if you're a parent listening to this, don't forget your parent tax on Halloween night.
Yes.
You are entitled to some
Yes.
candy that your kids rake in.
The good
so
old
don't
dad
forget.
tax that
Dad
I
tax.
enforce.
Absolutely.
So have a good one.
See y'all.
Thanks for being with us for this episode of the Helping Healing Humor podcast. Be sure to download our free ebook, 28 Days of Focused Living, at benandtravis.com and receive all of our Helping Healing and Humor extra content directly in your inbox. We look forward to having you join us at the same Ben and Travis time, same Ben and Travis channel.